You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we help music educators to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. I am your host, Elisa Jansen-Jones, and guess what? I know exactly how busy you are right now with the holiday season upon us, which is why this episode is short, sweet, and to the point. We're going to talk about some top tips for encouraging your students to practice over the holiday breaks. Now, our regular listeners know that I'm rather against doing practice cards, having students track their at-home practice on some piece of paper and requiring students to sign them, all of that creating more paperwork for yourself while not actually telling you anything about your students' practice. Well, there are some great ways to track practice, like Smart Music. All the student has to do is log in and play along, and Smart Music provides that data for you, not only how long they practiced, but how well they do on the things you assign them. It also makes it more fun for them because they get to see how well they do right in front of them, and they get to play along with the background, and it just makes it more fun. To help me come up with even more ideas for how to encourage students to have fun practicing over the break, I turned to a couple of different resources. One is Luann Pope, who's an education specialist for Tonara, which is an app that helps connect all of your students and track their practicing. And I've tapped into some friends from Facebook as well. Luann runs a robust private lesson studio and uses the Tonara app to track her students' progress, keep them engaged, know how long of a time period has passed since they last practiced, and she can connect her students with each other so they can encourage each other as well. In this first part, she's going to share with you some of her best tips. Many of these are easy to do, whether you use the Tonara app or not. It's the concept that matters the most. Just that Tonara makes it easy and intuitive to do them all in one place. So let's hear some of Luann's strategies for getting students to practice.
Well, my name is Luann Pope, and I am a mother of three. I am a piano teacher with about 35 students in my home. I teach 7 students at a college, and I am a creative education specialist for Tonara, which is a studio management and practice app. So I wear many hats, and I enjoy each one of them. So it's hard for me to imagine myself taking one of those hats off. So I don't think I ever will.
All right. So we are going to be talking today about tips and tricks for how to get our students to practice over the break. And I know there are some teachers, myself included, I never tracked my students' practice. I always just did it based on testing. I thought, what's the point of me taking practice records? But I know that there are better ways to do it and to encourage our students to practice. So where do we start?
So I was finding that I was spending 86 hours a year just writing into the black hole of the notebook, and the students weren't really looking at it. I had no way of knowing what they were really doing at home. And I've always said I'd love to be that fly on the wall, or in this case, wouldn't it be much better to be a ladybug? I'd like to be a ladybug on the wall to see what they're doing at home. And I find that especially if you're in a band room and you're full of students, I think that some of the students might still feel alone if they don't have that connection to the other students or a way to know what the other students are doing when they're, practicing at home. And I find that my students can encourage each other to practice and hold each other accountable. They actually can start challenges because I put them into practicing communities that stay active and vibrant. So even when they're on a break, they can talk to each other. And there's a group chat and then other smaller groups that I've placed together. So practice buddies of 2 or 3 other students. I feel like, especially if you were in an ensemble, those students might be a small ensemble or they might be larger. So maybe you have everybody in a small ensemble be in one group together and they can talk with each other and discuss their practicing and ask each other if they have practiced. And if you're in a very large ensemble, then maybe only the flute players are in a group together and they can work on things together. They can play for each other and say, how does this sound? Is this the way you're playing it? I just can imagine that in the classroom, this could be pièce de résistance that would just hold everything together, be that glue.
So, talk to me about why students don't practice to begin with. I feel like if we're giving them good repertoire that they enjoy playing and it's not too hard for them, I find if we give it too hard, then they're not going to want to practice it. Rare is the student that will actually sit down and work through the hard stuff. They want to just play the easy stuff. So, why don't they practice?
I've had students tell me, I forgot that I was a pianist. I forgot that I was a musician. And as you said, some might be motivated to learn the piece, but others might not be motivated by just the music alone. They might need a little bit more than just learning the notes, and they really can enjoy that social aspect of being in a group. Tanara allows the student to have amazing discussions with the other musicians that can either be teacher-driven by me or even student-led, which I think are the most fun ways that students can be working together. For example, when I was in Italy for about 10 days, I was able to keep in touch with my piano studio. So I would send them a picture of the day. Day one was a gondola. Day two, I think, was my stracciatella gelato. Day three, an invisible man. And so each of the days, the students would get onto the group chat and be able to make a recording for each other. So with the gondola, I received a beautiful piece by a high school senior who's now actually a college piano major. And by the way, she has asked to stay on Tanara to be able to practice because she feels like it really holds her accountable. Day two was my favorite with the gelato because I asked the kids what was their favorite ice cream. And I had a little student who's about 7 years old at the time, and she said her favorite ice cream was chocolate vanilla swirl. She'd made up an A section to a piece that sounded very swirly, and she changed octaves with it. It was very short, but beautifully swirly. And then she then went on to a part that was very crunchy sounding. I was so impressed that she came back to her swirly section again. And I was able to ask the students, okay, what was the form of her piece? And they said, oh, that obviously was ABA. And I said, well, what about that B section? What do you think could be happening there? And they said, some of the students said, oh, yeah, those are definitely the sprinkles. And somebody else was like, oh, no, that's the crunchy cone. I just felt like it was so cool that I could be having a lesson with my students when I was, 4,000 miles away. And as far as a student-led, what would you call it? Student-led direction of where the students are going to go would be that I returned from my trip, and one of the little boys had gone to a place that had to do with trains. So he came back and he said, oh, here's my piece about a locomotive. I had another student who had been to the beach, and she made up a piece about seagulls. We've had twinkle battles, and where one of the students said, hey, I can play Twinkle Twinkle. And everybody was trying it. And I find it's kind of fun that those usually happen, those types of organic performances happen on Friday nights. I'll quite often start a challenge on a Friday night. They've got the whole weekend to work through it. Or the students will just do that too. I had one student send an assignment to 5 other students. He had made up a little boogie woogie bass line, and he said, you've just been boogied. And he then had students playing the bass line along with a little jazzy part that I had written, and then other students were making up their own jazzy parts. So it's so much fun because when I was teaching and just writing in the notebook and sending the kids home, I had no idea what they were doing. And now if I know that a student isn't practicing, it doesn't bother me. the knowledge of knowing they're not practicing doesn't bother me. It's maybe them not practicing bothers me, but that knowledge of knowing it doesn't, because knowledge is power. And so this gives me a way to get super creative and think, okay, this student is, very into sports. Maybe I need to, get them a sports piece next time. And maybe they can send a challenge to another student about, let's find a sports piece that we both play. And there's just, the sky is the limit. So it's really, really fun. So let's say coming back to school after a 3-week break or even a full summer break, when you're having to blow the cobwebs out of your horn, Tanara then can allow the teacher to create those fun individual challenges to the entire group or challenges between the small groups. This way, the students are practicing, they're staying plugged in, whether they're seeing their teacher regularly or not. I love being able to attach other forms of multimedia. Doreen Hall has a wonderful summer listening calendar challenge for students that can be found at pianoparent.net. So I can link that to a group assignment, and it would go to my entire studio over the summer to be sure that the students are still listening to wonderful music, and makes it so easy for me because I don't have to keep sending out listening assignments. Any resource that I have at my fingertips, I can use. There's so much great stuff out there. I've even found some things on Pinterest that I can attach to their assignment. It inspires me to create my own fun with the students, because this way now I have a way to keep track of who's practicing and participating, and that enthusiasm really becomes contagious.
Do you feel like by encouraging more engagement, your students do end up practicing more? Or do you end up with some kids who are just a little bit shy and don't care as much about that engagement?
I have found that if I've sent something out to the group, and that's sort of one-way funneling, like it's just going one direction, whereas the feedback in this being two-way is amazing to me. And students who weren't practicing at all now have found that if I keep sending out little challenges, there will always be something that every student will love at some point. They might not participate in all of the challenges, but they absolutely will find something that they love. And once they've, gotten this little practice bug, because we have a leaderboard, which can either be from just the studio or there's a global leaderboard. And then within my studio, I've paired them into smaller groups too it's called the Kids Club, where if they're a part of the Kids Club, they know they're a part of the elite practicers. And then I've made another group that's called You Can Do It If You Put Your Mind to It. So those students then every once in a while just need that extra little push. And by being able to attach audio, video, pictures, PDFs, chord charts, links, so many things to their assignment, something catches the eye of or the ear of, just about everybody at some time. And as it goes, it's going to wax and wane, but I always have those top practicers that will pretty much stay at the top, and then everybody else moves in and out. But they're all practicing at some point. Mm-hmm. For me to know that in 1 week's time, I've had out of 35 students that 30 of them have practiced, I'm happy with that, because before I had no idea. And now I can really target those 5 students that maybe weren't practicing at all, and find something that's going to connect and resonate with their heart that makes them feel like I really want to do this. When they see at a recital that, because I'm not having to give them, they're not working toward a big prize. It might be just a little one here and there, but for them, the prize can be that their piece is chosen as the high bar to achieve. When a student is getting an assignment, someone else's piece might be attached to that assignment as the way that this piece is to be played excellently. They also might have got these little a little board that they can change the lettering to so that they know that if they've done some awesome practicing that week, they can take it home. They will put a saying on there that will encourage all the other students. And I have to tell you about the funniest one. It was so cute. So I get things like, perfect practice makes perfect. Music is my love language. All different types of things that the students brought back. And one day, a grandma came in and she handed me the child's board and she kind of looked at me with a cute little face and she said, I think these are all of her sight words, because the board said cat, the, my, and nothing was in any order to make sense. But she was so proud of writing out her sight words that even that became something really special to that student, that I can honor her and say, you are on the right track. Well done.
That's awesome. And you're really creating like a culture around practice, that it's not a torturous activity to do at home, but it really is something fun and engaging and can be lighthearted. So what are some other ways that you get your students to feel encouraged to practice? We talked about some individual challenges that you do. There's built-in ranking to kind of gamify the things. There's group chats. You group them together as practice buddies. You give them little challenges, and did I already say that? And then they can encourage each other. Are there other things that you do to kind of encourage them to practice? What do your challenges look like?
Try to think in multiple languages. Like sometimes the challenge is going to be to play something by ear. I might also think in terms of the season we're in. So let me talk at this point about our holiday Tanara bingo. I just thought it would be really fun to be able to have the students have something tangible, something physical to print out and be able to work on over our Christmas holidays that are coming up. So on here, we have things like play a holiday song with a Santa hat on, or play and record yourself playing a piece for a pet. And then we thought, well, not everybody has a pet, so maybe it could also be for a stuffed animal. And I'm thinking that, a teenager might think, oh, that's really funny, or they may choose to not, participate in that one. There's so many other things. Practice all of your scales in eighth notes. And the teacher can always do an upgrade or a change on this and say, for you to get this one, I would love to hear you play yours in 16th notes or in 3 octaves in triplets. So anything can be customized to the individual in the studio. Oh, listen to a symphony on YouTube and post the link in the group chat on Tanara. How about find a way to play your favorite holiday piece for a relative who lives far away? I love this one. This was a fun one to think of. Teach a family member how to play something on your instrument, because I find that the more the parents can be involved, the better it is. I would even find that as a student is making up an improv about something, I'll hear the parent in the background saying, oh, that, was that elephants in the background? Oh, no, Mom, those were the hyenas, so I love having the parents involved in as many things as we can get them to do. And my very, very favorite is the square that says, thank your parents and your teacher for giving you the gift of music.
Those are really, really fun. I think too often as teachers, we suppose that the grade is the motivation for the students, but that's not always the case. I have one of my 3 kids, the youngest, does not care about grades at all whatsoever. That does not mean that he won't do things for classes. He'll do them if he enjoys them, if he is having fun with them, if it's a fun challenge, if it's a story, if it's something that provokes his imagination. Motivation by grades, not his thing at all in any way whatsoever.
Right.
But give him a challenge to play on his trombone and he'll come home and do it. Well, these are really, really clever. And you've given us so many great ideas for how to get students to really engage and practice?
I just want to say that you can go to tonara.com and take a look at what Tonara does and why we do it. We've got a lot of information on there. We have a blog that you can check out. We love talking with teachers. We love going to conferences. We love creating the app for teachers to be, the best thing about their studio.
What I love most about these ideas is that they aren't about grading or forcing, just giving some fun ideas and challenges to your students to keep them engaged. Now, keeping in this same vein of non-grading ideas, I've compiled a whole list of ideas from other music educators, my friends and colleagues on Facebook, and have made them available to you on the show notes page. Just go to smartmusic.com/blog and search for episode 64. Enter your email address and we'll send you the download. Trust me, you won't want to skip getting the content in this download. We've got 2 different versions of Bingo for your students to play. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, for sharing this podcast, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. And may all of your concerts be perfection. May your heart be filled with joy, and may your drinking be light. Until next time, keep teaching on.